On October 26th, 1788, at Virginia's Hampden-Sydney College, 3 young men who had professed faith in Jesus Christ and started following as his disciples found each other, found one another. And with hearts that were so broken for their campus and for the need for revival, they began to pray, but they began to pray in secret. See, they'd go off of their campus and walk about a mile away from the campus into the forest that was adjacent to the university for fear of the animosity that they might experience from other students on campus. But God is faithful, and he took their faithfulness, and even in the midst of their fear, did something powerful. You see, the God who controls the weather made it rain one day on their Saturday weekly prayer meeting, and they were forced to take their Saturday prayer time indoors. And so they gathered in a residence hall there on campus and shut the doors and locked them, and they began to pray as they had many Saturdays before. And one of these young men named Hill says that as they were singing quietly with suppressed voices, not wishing that any would know what they were doing, that not long after, a noisy mob was raised, and as he says, which collected in the passage before our door and began to thump at the door and whoop and swear and threaten vengeance. He says, we had to cease and bear the ridicule and the abuse of this noisy riot. Later that evening, president of the university, President Robert Blair Smith, gathers the student body and professors and says, What is this riot about? What is all of this commotion about? And students stood and said that there were three that were locked behind closed doors, praying and singing. And they say that we were determined to break up this gathering. Oh, but President Smith, former Presbyterian minister, now president of this college, with tears in his eyes, he says, and has it come to this? Is it possible that some of my students are under religious impressions and determined to serve their Savior? And with tears in his eyes, he turns to these 3 and he says, I rejoice with you, my young friends, that you've taken the stand that you have. He says to them, you shall not be interrupted in your further meetings, for your next appointment will take place in my personal parlor, and I will be joining you there for prayer. See, this led to a deep conviction on the campus, and what started with 3 and then 4, with the college president praying together, in a matter of weeks turned into more than half of the student body gathering in the president's parlor, packed in there to pray together. President Blair's father, who came to faith under the preaching of George Whitefield in the First Great Awakening, heard of the news. News began to spread of this revival at the college, and he wanted to see with his own eyes what was taking place on his son's college campus. And so he goes to the university and he writes this. He says, and the half was not told to me of the display of God's power and grace among them, nay, not even a tenth. The blessed work has spread among many people of every description. I'm going to pause right there to say that by this point, the revival taking place on campus had spread to other colleges, and within 100 miles of around that university, the effects of the revival was already starting to be seen in towns all over. He says, the blessed work has spread among many people of every description, high and low, rich and poor, learned and unlearned, orthodox and heterodox, sober and rude, white and black, young and old. And he writes and says, and especially the youth.
Hey, thanks for watching. To find out more about Houston's First, you can subscribe to our channel or you can go to houstonsfirst.org.